Even though she's classified as a country singer, she is known to have one of the best and most powerful voices in popular music. She has used her music for social reform, focusing attention on domestic violence and physical abuse. She is a wife, a mother, and a music producer. And her hits have included Independence Day, My Baby Loves Me, Valentine, Wild Angel, Broken Wing, and This One's for the Girls. Hello, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with chart-topping vocalist Martina McBride. How do you describe country music? What's your definition?
I think country music is about real life. You know, it's just simple songs, very simple, honest lyric. Musically, well, there's different kinds of country music. You know, there's the traditional country music that uses traditional instruments and has a certain beat to it. And then there's modern country music, which is, you know, uses more of pop-sounding elements and things like that. So it depends on which kind of country music you're talking about. But no matter which type, the common factor that I really think sets it apart as a genre are the lyrics.
Yeah, how important are lyrics to you? Is that where it lives for you?
Definitely, very important, because especially in this genre, because it's all about communicating, and it's about. It's a conversation. You know, I love to find songs that just sound like conversation. They're just simple and straightforward, and you know, this is what I would say to you if I was sitting across the table from you. So, to me, lyrics are extremely important.
In building an album, do you look then at what the whole entirety of it says, or are you pretty caught up in each song individually?
I really go with each song individually. Not usually until after an album is finished, or toward the end, do I start to see it. You know, if there's a common theme that runs through it or something like that. And what that tells me, if I do see a common theme running through it, is that just must be what I wanted to express at this time. You know, those are the songs I was drawn to. Those are the lyrics I was drawn to. So, like this new album has kind of a common theme of working through things and getting through it and coming out the other side in a positive, hopeful way. Have you been working through some things in your life, and that's what led you to that? Or? Not really. No, it really has no reflection on what I've been going through. My life is, you know, pretty easy. Yeah. But it's just, I don't know, those were just the lyrics I was drawn to this time. Actually, you know, a lot of my work has the hopeful, positive angle to it, so it's nothing really new.
Now, there was a time when you were singing in a rock band. Mm-hmm. But you chose to go away from that. Uh-huh. What was it about that music that first drew you to it, and then why did you decide not to follow that route?
Well, I think I was initially drawn to it. I was really young, and I think I was drawn to it for its energy and kind of. I wanted to be a rock star. You know, who doesn't want to be a rock star? So what made me turn away from it was the lack of fulfillment of standing up and singing songs that I really didn't feel like lyrically said a lot, or, you know, there's a lot of songs that make no sense, but they're really cool, they have a good beat or whatever. And so for me, I just didn't feel, I missed the art of the country song, which is, and the sort of one-on-one conversation with the listener.
Yeah, and you were raised with that because you played with your family.
Absolutely.
Was that fun to do that as a child, or did you ever feel like I'm missing out being a kid because you were playing and working and all of that?
A little of both. You know, I really enjoyed it. I loved it. My brother and I both played in my dad's band, and it was really our family thing to do together. You know, on the weekends, my mom ran the soundboard. My dad played guitar. He was the band leader and played guitar and sang, and I played keyboards and sang, and my little brother played steel guitar and electric guitar and sang. So it was really our thing to do together. There were a few times in high school, because we used to play like dances for the whole community. So my high school friends would be out there dancing and having fun.
And you'd be working.
I would be on stage working, so I resented that a little bit now and then. But I think I was probably mature enough to realize what an opportunity it was that I was getting to do this. And also I loved it. I loved performing and singing. So it was worth it.
When did you realize you had this gift of a voice?
Really early on.
Really?
Yeah. I started singing in my dad's band when I was 7 years old. So I started singing, entertaining people when I was probably 4 or 5, starting around kindergarten. And just it was local things. It was like, church, 4-H contests, and my dad would play acoustic guitar and I would sing, and he would teach me all these old country songs. And so once you get that, you can feel when an audience, when you make them happy, when they feel like you do a good job. But then I also kind of knew it instinctively. I knew when I sang, it felt good. I knew that it just felt like it felt like my thing.
Did it come out naturally, or was it something you had to work at?
It was completely natural.
Really?
I never took a voice lesson.
Still to today?
Yep. I took a lesson when I first got to Nashville. I got with a teacher to learn some warm-ups, but really never took any lessons. And probably if I took lessons, I'd be better. But
I don't think that's possible.
But it was just a real natural gift. It was just something that I always did, and I opened my mouth and it came out, and I would listen to records and try to sing like the people on the records. That was kind of how I learned and how I increased my range and learned new licks and things. But yeah, it was a real natural thing.
Well, anybody else in your family have a voice like yours?
Well, my mom is a great singer, but she won't sing for anybody.
Why?
She's one of the. She just won't. She's too nervous and afraid. But I used to hear her singing around the house all the time. Things like "Summertime" and "Que Sera Sera," and my dad, of course, is a great singer. He fronted the band and just is a great classic country singer, like Ernest Tubb or Conway Twitty, that kind of a singer. And my little brother has a great voice. He plays in my band and sings harmony with me. So yeah, we had musical talent as a family.
Yeah. When you decided then to go into those pop and rock bands, did your family look down on you and say, "Wait, what are you doing?"
No, not really. The first rock band that I sang with were kind of friends, not really friends of the family, a little bit, So I think my parents entrusted me to them, which was a big mistake. I was 17 years old traveling around in a van that had a hole in the floor, and we had no money and no food, and screaming my head off in clubs singing Pat Benatar and Heart and Journey, and it was an amazing. It was a great experience for me, looking back.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they were worried. I'm sure if my 17-year-old said that she was gonna come to me and said I'm gonna tour around the state with a rock band, I would be like, but what about your up? But I think they entrusted that I had enough of a good upbringing that would, get me through any hurdles that might throw my way.
When you talk about the early day gigs, and then you look at what you do today, and the stadium-size shows, and all of that big stuff, do you ever miss being able to do those small, kind of intimate shows like that?
Yeah. Small. On one hand, smaller crowds make me really more nervous. Mm-hmm. Like I don't get nervous when I go on stage when it's like tonight, this show, when it's a big crowd. But there's something about playing for 3 people that makes me more nervous.
Yeah.
But having said that, I really enjoy like a small theater or a club. We don't get to do those anymore. But a small theater is my perfect scenario because it's really just more intimate and you can really connect with an audience. If somebody yells something, says something to me, I can say something back and we can have a conversation, and it's spontaneous, and it's really more than just, sometimes with a bigger audience you have to really work to reach that last person in the last row way up there. Right. And so you don't have a lot of time to chit-chat with people in the audience and things like that.
Does some of the joy go out of it as you've gotten bigger, or it's just a different kind of experience?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
I do. I love every aspect of it. I love making records. I love performing. The only thing that ever bothers me a little bit is being away from home for long stretches of time. But we've worked around that. Now I'm lucky enough that I get to set my own schedule, my tour schedule. So I don't have really that to deal with anymore. And other than that, I just love it. Yeah. It's so exciting to me. It's still just as exciting to walk out on stage. It's still just as exciting to hear my song on the radio. All that stuff.
Talk a little bit about how you met your husband.
Well, we were in Wichita, Kansas. That's where he grew up, and that's where I moved from my small town of Sharon, Kansas. And I was trying to put a band together, and I needed a place to rehearse. So somebody said to me, you should call John McBride. He has a big warehouse. He has a sound company. He has a big warehouse, and he's just built a rehearsal room. So I called him up, and he said, well, it's not quite finished yet. I'll call you when it's finished. And anyway, I ended up rehearsing in that space. The band failed miserably. We never made it out of the rehearsal hall. We started fighting, and we never played a gig. But he and I really hit it off. And
so something good came of it.
Definitely, definitely, yes.
So he's been in it then from the beginning, in a sense. Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time, I guess, where he thought, this isn't the direction to go? Maybe we need you to be the wife, and I'm going to be out there as the breadwinner. Did you ever have that kind of struggle?
No, never. He's an amazing person, really. I mean, I'm so fortunate that I got paired up with him, because this is a crazy career. I think the fact that he has his own thing going, helps a lot. But he's just been so supportive, and so he's always had a lot of respect for me, for my talent and for me as an individual, and would never, ever try to do anything to hold me back.
Then he was working for Garth Brooks, and you were working on the tour, but you weren't singing.
Nope. He got the job as Garth's production manager when we moved to Nashville, and he was out on tour. And I was in Nashville waiting tables, and I didn't know anybody, and we were newlyweds, basically. We'd just been married about a year. Yeah. So I said, isn't there anything I can do on the tour? And so he went to Garth's T-shirt guy. I said, can you give my wife a job selling T-shirts? And he said, sure. So I came out and sold T-shirts for about, I guess maybe almost a year, while I was, in the meantime, trying to get a record deal in Nashville and making demo tapes and going that whole route.
Was it frustrating when you weren't performing? Because you had been brought up performing, you had your own bands, and now you're kind of like looking for a place to perform. But how do you deal with that as an artist?
I made a conscious decision when I moved to Nashville not to play clubs, because I just felt like you can get lost in that world. You can get lost in the odd hours and everything, and not really have the focus on getting a record deal. There's not a lot of people that are discovered in clubs in Nashville, and I kind of had that, I knew that. So that's when I missed singing. When I first moved to Nashville, before John got the gig with Garth, before I went out on the road, I really felt for the first time like I didn't know. It was like what I do and who I am is so tied up with singing and my voice, and I didn't realize that until that time in my life, and I missed it terribly. I really did. When I went on the road with Garth, I didn't really think of it because I was busy and I was working, trying to get a record deal. We were making a demo tape and trying to mix that and pitch it to record labels and stuff like that. So I knew I was working towards something, and I wasn't just kind of floating around waiting tables and not knowing what to do. So when I went on the road with Garth, I didn't ever think, oh, I wish I was up there instead of selling T-shirts. Because for me, I was already working toward getting a record deal. And
when you looked at that life, when you looked at what Garth had and what was going on, could you ever have imagined yourself at that point doing the same? Could you see that for you?
Well, not like that. I mean, his thing was huge. I mean,
well, yours is no small fries.
Well, I mean, he was Garth Brooks. It's like Garth Brooks, Elvis, the Beatles. I mean, it was amazing. But I did see. I watched him. I watched how he was on stage and how he was with his fans, and took away big lessons from that. Definitely. And I guess I did see myself as having that kind of life. I hoped for that. I think if you're going to do this and you're going to go for it, you have to, in some part of you, you have to visualize, you have to believe that you can do it, that you can be there. If you're in the right place at the right time and it all works out. So I did. I saw myself on stage in front of a lot of people making records, and that was my dream.
Okay, who approached Garth then? Because I know at some point you're going to start opening for him.
Right.
But how do you go from the T-shirt girl to the opening act?
Well, he knew I was making a record. In the meantime, I'd gotten my record deal with RCA and started work on my album. And he called John and I over to his house one night. And so he said he just wanted to give me some advice about the music business. Well, I'm like, hey, if he's going to give me advice, I'm there. So we went over and we sat down. And he said, so what have you been working on in the studio? He'd never really heard me sing before. And I sang him a song a cappella that we'd been working on, and he was real quiet for a minute, and he goes, how did he say it? It was so crazy. He was like, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to open my tour next year. I said, well, geez, let me think about that.
You're like, well, I'm kind of busy. Maybe get that.
So that's how it happened. He just flat out offered me the spot.
So how does that feel, walking out in that size an arena to that many fans? I mean, that must be insane. And the other hard part, they're there to see Garth. You're the new girl. How did, you know?
Well, to be really honest, every audience that we played for that I can remember, maybe I've blocked out the bad ones, but all the audiences were so warm. Starting with the first show we did in Denver, Colorado, was my parents came in for it, and I walked out in a little white miniskirt and a Western jacket with fringe and cowboy boots, and I started singing, and the audience was, really paid attention. They were very kind, and they stood up at the end, and it was like they really, which gave me a lot of confidence to move forward. It was a great gift.
That's amazing. I can't imagine what that feeling must be like the very first time you see all of these people and they're there listening to you,
It's a little bit overwhelming, but I just kind of thought, this is the beginning, and I've got to do it. I'm up here in front of all these people. I have no choice but to do a good job and to do my best and make it work.
When did you figure out that you were going to do something more with this audience? And by that I mean all of the messages and then the charity work you do. When did you realize you could parlay this into something more?
Well, I started, I'd read about people that used their talent for charity auctions or to raise money for a certain charity, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess you could probably do that. And it was a real light bulb for me. I thought, I want to do that. I want to do something. I want to use this platform that I've been given and speak for people who can't do it and raise money with my talent. And I think the first time that happened was after I recorded Independence Day. I got a focus for my domestic violence. When I recorded Independence Day, it awakened something in me. This anger and passion, and I was blown away by the fact that this actually happens. Like, I knew of it, but I wasn't really tuned into it until I started reading about it. And really,
so what drew you to the song initially then?
Well, what drew me to the song was the story and the amazingly written song. I mean, it's like poetry, that song. Every line is just brilliant. There's no line that is kind of like, that's not a very good line. Everything is great. So I was drawn to the song for just the sheer piece of songwriting that it is, and then the passion of the story, and I never heard anything like it before, and after I recorded it, I just started thinking about what can I do to make this better, because we cannot have this, and so that's when I got involved with the YWCA and different organizations to stop domestic violence, and that was really my main focus.
And you spend so much of your time in it, too. You very much have become like the old country artists would sing about, and by old I mean back in the days gone by. They were always talking about, in a sense, the heartache song and stuff, where you took it to the modern point where it's like, these are issues, we should deal with them. I thought that was an amazing move, especially at the time you chose to do it.
Well, I don't know that it was a choice, to be honest. It wasn't ever a conscious choice. It wasn't, I'm going to sing about child abuse, or I'm going to sing about domestic violence. It was just these songs. I just heard Independence Day, I heard Concrete Angel, I heard Broken Wing, and I just couldn't walk away from them. I couldn't say, oh, I can't. I was like, I have to sing this song. So it was really just an instinct. I was just drawn to the songs, and I never really thought, I'm singing a song about an abused child. I don't know how that's going to be taken. I don't know if people are going to, I just had to do it. And I never really thought Concrete Angel would be a single. Because I really did think it was probably too much for country radio to grasp, and for really an audience to grab onto and listen to. But they did, yeah. And it's still one of the songs that I get the most requests for, and the most email about, and the most mail about.
Yeah, guilty pleasure question for me. What happens at the end of Broken Wing? Does she leave, or does she commit suicide?
She leaves.
The video really makes you think she jumped out the window.
I'm so glad you said that, because I had this conversation with the video directors. I wanted to show her leaving. I said, listen, you guys, because with Independence Day, I got asked the question, did she die? Did she burn the house down with her in it? And I said, no. She burned the house down with him in it, but she left and got away. And they're like, oh, that's not what I got from it. And so the same video directors did Broken Wing, and they're great friends of mine. And I said, listen, you guys, we have to show her leaving because I'm going to get the question. They're going to think she jumped out the window. And they said, oh, no, they won't. We'll show the window. We'll show the ground without her on the ground. They'll get the picture. You don't have to spell everything out for everybody.
She jumped out the window and flew away.
I'm like, please. So anyway, so we finished the video, and the first question I get is, did she jump out the window and commit suicide, or did she leave? And I'm like, she left. She's alive and well, working in a Walmart in Dubuque.
Do you like making the videos? Is that fun for you?
I love it.
Really?
Yeah, I do. It's a way to be creative and to express the song in a different way.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, there's a Barbie doll of you out there?
Yes.
What was that look for?
It's just crazy.
How did that come to be?
Mattel called up and said they wanted to do a Barbie doll of me, and I mean, it was like, hello, what? Are you sure? I mean, it's so surreal. When you're a little kid and you dream about things, you dream about, I made my acceptance speech in the mirror and the hairbrush, the whole thing. I dreamed about growing up and doing what I do. I never ever dreamed I would be a Barbie doll. Yeah. I mean, it's like out of your realm of thinking. So it was quite a shock, but it's really cool. They let me have a lot of input in what she looked like, what I look like, and what dress I wanted to put on me. And the only thing I said, can we make the measurements a little more realistic? And they said, no. No.
Okay, for a while there, your country music has got a very pop flavor to it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, Timeless comes out. Very change back to old traditional country. Mm-hmm. Is that because that's where your heart needs to go and that's where we're going to see more of you? Or was it just time for that record?
It was time for that record. I'd wanted to make that record. I mean, I love traditional country music. That's what I was raised on. And how I started making pop country music, I don't really know how that happened. I mean, my first record, Time Has Come, is very traditional.
Right. Really
traditional. Of course, it sold about 5 copies. But with the second record, I started finding songs like My Baby Loves Me and Independence Day, and the songs just kind of led me production-wise in a different direction, which I always let happen. I always find the songs and then decide how I'm going to produce the album. And then I just kind of got known for that, and I found songs like Wild Angels and Safe in the Arms of Love, and the songs just started, and that was this kind of a big style of writing in Nashville at that point too. You couldn't find a traditional country song. It's still hard to find a traditional country song when you're looking for songs. I mean, it's just hard. So I always kind of felt like I really want to do more. My heart is really more of a traditional artist, and I mean, when I first got a record deal, I said I want to be the female Alan Jackson. I want to be a traditional country music artist, or Merle Haggard, or somebody like that, Buck Owens. And I would go do the Grand Ole Opry and I'd feel bad. I'm like, I can't. I want to do Loretta Lynn or something. I mean, my own songs are so pop sounding. So when I made the Martina album, at the end of that album, I frankly just kind of ran out of creative places to go. Yeah. Really. I just looked at making another album and said, I just don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do this again, this thing. So then I thought, I really want to make a traditional country album. I recorded Together Again for an outside project, and I thought, I wish I could do a whole album of this stuff. I thought, well, why can't I do a whole album of this stuff? So I went to my record company president, and he supported me on it. And next thing I know, no blink of an eye.
We don't want to go there?
No. Wow. There was a lot of wine involved in the conversation leading up to me asking him if I could actually do it. And he said, yeah, that's what I think you should do. And it was such a blessing. I mean, it was so joyful, the whole process of making that album. I've never had that much fun making a record. I love making records, but that one was like, it was so easy and so fun, and it was just, I put together a band, that...
You produced that one too, right?
And I put together a band that had the same reverence and the same passion for this music that I do, and really wanted it to be authentic and right, and you can hear that when you hear the record, So I just loved it, and what it did was it freed me up to move forward. And when I started making this last album, I had all this energy, and I had a sort of open. It just helped me, move on to the next chapter, which is what I feel like I'm doing now.
And you've started writing now, correct?
Yeah.
Did you always write and just never recorded it, or? Really?
Never wrote, and never wanted to, really. People would say, you should write a song. I'm like, I'm not a songwriter. I can't write a song, because it is a gift, I mean, and I have so much respect for that gift that part of what stopped me from doing it was just the fear of not being able to do it, really,
Yep.
And not do it well. So I was really drugged kicking and screaming through that door.
And so how do you think you are?
I think I'm pretty good. I mean, I still don't know whether I will ever wake up and with a masterpiece in my head that I have to get down on paper. But when given an idea, I am really able to contribute and make that into a finished song, and it was really fun.
Yeah. So will we see more country traditional coming out of you in the future? Do you think we'll see more pop, or kind of going to meander?
That it's the record that I just made after Timeless is back toward the more pop sound, but it has a more organic feel that I think comes from the Timeless experience. We used a lot of analog equipment. I tried to get it to sound like vinyl, to sound like old records instead of digital CD. So we worked hard toward that, and I think, I didn't really do a lot of overdubs. It's just pretty much guitar, bass, and drums with a little bit of fiddle here and some steel guitar there and acoustic guitars. And so it's probably not as slick as some of the stuff I've done in the past.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm going to let you go so you can go explain to your children what vinyl is, because they have no idea.
They know they do, though.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, my children know, yes.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Martina McBride.
My pleasure.
To order a DVD of this or any episode of Interviews, please visit HoustonPBS.org.